as we are another week closer to the Pac-12 football season. We continue to have press conferences pretty much every day, which has given us a ton of news surrounding the team. We were fortunate enough to listen to Jamari Joyner speak to the media earlier this week, and where he revealed to us that he was playing most of the season injured. We know, of course, that he had that surgery on his foot in the offseason, but we had no idea that this injury was something that was bothering him during the season. So, I mean, just how impressive is that Joyner led the team in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns, and he was doing all of that with a bad foot. So, I mean, what can you say about this, Ryan? It's pretty incredible stuff here from Joyner, right?
Yeah, I think it shocked everybody when he said that last week. He's an incredible talent at the wide receiver position, and it just shows that this coming season how much of an impact that he can make, because he led the team, as you said, with over 500 receiving yards, and now he's going to have Grant Gunnell full time as the starter. So I think the sky's the limit for Jamari Joyner.
And he was doing all of that in his first season as a wide receiver. Like, it's just so crazy to think that Joyner was recruited to Arizona to play quarterback. And, you know, he played his first season as a quarterback his freshman year and then made that transition to wide receiver last season and just put up those numbers, just not only while being injured, but to do that in your first season as a collegiate wide receiver, it's just so impressive. Like, you know, he's 100% now, so I fully expect him to have another good year, like you were just saying. I mean, it's just what's really interesting about that is that Jamari Joyner is just a small piece to this offense and what could be an above average offense this season. So we'll get into it now. I mean, how good can this offense really be, Ryan? I mean, is it time to start giving this team credit where credit is due?
Yeah, I think this offense could finish top 5 in yards, points per game in the Pac-12 this season. And to get back to what you were saying about Jamari Joyner playing quarterback a few years ago, he did hint in his press conference a few days ago that they may throw in some gadget plays for him to maybe get snaps at the quarterback position this season.
I love the sound of that. That sounds great. I think it's time. I definitely think it's time to stop writing this team off, just simply because of the potential that this offense has. Like I'm not gonna sit here and say that, you know, this team is gonna go crazy and compete for the Pac-12 South, but I do think this team can be decent. Like we've seen the preseason polls, and I think Arizona's over under for this season was set at 1 win. Like it was a single win, which in itself is just so weird. Like, you don't really set a line at a whole win. Like 1.5 games would have been like more understandable. But anyways, I definitely think that to say that this team has a chance to win 0 games this year and finish dead last in the Pac-12 is just crazy. Like, do we really think that this team is worse than Colorado? Like, do we really think that this team is potentially worse than UCLA? Like I don't see it. Like, Colorado has lost a ton of their other pieces on offense, and you know they've got a completely new head coach coming into this season, and you know UCLA has a ton of holes to fill on their team as well. Like, you know, Arizona beat UCLA and Colorado last year, and has had a history of beating Colorado in the past. Like, that's probably the only thing that you can probably give Kevin Sumlin credit for, is that he's been consistently he's been able to consistently beat Colorado every single year. Like I just don't see this team being that terrible with the potential on this offense, like on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and also there's the future just looks very bright because, as you mentioned, like all these players are very young. Booby Curry missed last year. He's only in his second year. You got Grant Gunnell, maybe for after this year for maybe 1 more year to 2, depending on how he plays. And then the running back group with Nate Tilford and Michael Wiley. Like the future is very bright for this offense. It's just going to be if the defense can chip in and pick them up this year.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of pieces on this offensive side. Really the only way that I see this offense just completely flop on his face this year is if Grant Gunnell has a bad year. Like if he just, for what reason, just doesn't have it, you know, which I think is very unlikely. That's the only scenario where I see Arizona not being a top five offense in this conference. Like, there's just too much talent on that side of the ball to have a bad year. Like, people forget, but we have to remember how good Grant Gunnell really is. Like, he proved to us in his freshman year that he can lead this offense and put this team in a position to succeed. And he was a 4-star quarterback coming out of high school. Like, he was a part of that Elite 11 camp. The one that they do every summer where they invite
Yeah.
all the best quarterbacks from high school, and they do a little competition thing. Like, he was part of that camp. Like, he was there with Spencer Rattler, Bo Nix, Sam Howell, Ryan Helinski, Talia Tagovailoa was there. I think Jaden Daniels was there as well. Like the point I'm making is that like to say that this team is projected to finish last in their conference, it's just ridiculous. Like, and to win 0 games and not even one game, like, those teams that are projected to do that never have an elite quarterback, like a legit 4-star quarterback under center for them. Like, the teams that finish last in the conference don't have a Grant Gunnell. You know what I mean? Like, there's just too many pieces on this offense. I really just can't see it being realistic to peg this team as a 1-win team and just move on. Like, there's just too much productive talent here for that to happen.
Yeah, and just hearing a lot of the players on offense talk, they just have so much heart to only win, as you said, 1 game. That's just not likely to me when looking at all these guys. Like Jamari Joyner he's setting himself up as a leader within that receiving group, and these guys want to win. Grant Gunnell, when he's been being asked about winning 1 game, no games, like he's like laughing at that, and he takes that as motivation. And they're going in the season as underdogs, and it seems like they that's the spot they want to be in. They're happy with that.
Yeah, the Wildcats are fed up with that. Like we were talking with Bryce Wilma earlier in the week at his press conference, and he was saying that the talk in the locker room was that people are pissed off about these projections. They got something to prove. You know what I mean? Like, so there's just too much heart going on for this team. I think there's too much talent. I believe in this offense, and I do think that 1 win is just ridiculous. Like, this offense just is way too good, and we've talked about it in the past before that we think everyone's going to be rusty on the defensive side, and so I think Arizona has a real chance to capitalize with its productive offense and win a couple games. So I do think it's time to stop sleeping on this offense. I think there's a lot of pieces here that you can really make the argument that this team has a potential to not necessarily compete for the Pac-12 South, right? Like I'll relax with that, but to peg them as a 1-win team, it's ridiculous. Like, they're going to win a couple games this season for sure.
Yeah, and I think his team has a chance to be competitive in most of the games they play, outside of maybe like USC. But this team, I think the offense is going to keep them in most games, and I don't think they're going to get blown out many times this season.
Yeah, I don't think there's any game on the schedule that I'm extremely worried about. I think that USC game might be a massacre, but we talked about that Utah game. I see that as being a very winnable game. I know we talked last week and I said that the spread was a little off there, but if you want to look at it one way, that game is really winnable. I think Arizona's offense can really take advantage of this Utah team and catch them at the right time. Like, we've talked about it, and we said that Utah is transitioning with their quarterbacks right now, and they've lost guys on the defensive side of the ball. Like, in week 1 of the season, like, they might still be trying to figure it all out. Like, they don't know who their quarterback is going to be in 2 weeks. So, like, they're going to catch this team at a good time. Like, if they were playing Utah, later on in the season, maybe I would be a little more worried. But I think week 1 against Utah is a pretty winnable game just because of the timing of this game. So I do like Arizona's chances in pretty much every game that they play just because of their offense. Like, their offense is going to put up a lot of points and keep this team in ball games.
Yeah, and I think especially, as you said, in week 1, I think there's not going to be a lot of defense played as they're still getting set. So I think it's going to be what offense outperforms the other. And, yeah, I think our offense could be better than theirs. So, yeah, I think it's a very, very winnable game in a little over 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, if this